I haven't really talked about this on Instagram, but I'm definitely paying for a lot of what happened in 2020 right now. Sometimes those cramps are worse than the period cramps. So it's like, yay, I get 2 weeks of this. Totally rad. You could never hurt me the way I have hurt myself during these episodes. I just kept telling myself it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and not really confronting that it wasn't okay. PMDD being classified as a mental disorder speaks so much to how severe it actually is. Hi, bestie. It's Bria Jones. So this video is a bit long overdue, but there are a lot of reasons why this video was just not necessary until now, and I'm glad that I waited now that I've had some things happen and occur. I just want to set the tone here. We're going to be talking about mental health. We might get into some disturbing things. If it might be a trigger point for you to talk about these things, then I would click out of the video right now. With this topic in particular, I highly recommend listening to everything that I'm going to say in this video. You can definitely misinterpret some things if you skip around and get bits and pieces of what I'm saying, especially if you think that you're a candidate for the things that I'm talking about. I really encourage you to listen to each detail because I'm going to make this as thorough as I possibly can. I think the hardest part about my personal health journey is that I have really not had anyone to relate to. It was important to me to do this video because it's like the second I talked about it on Instagram, so many people were like, this sounds like me. I think this could be me. And it's kind of scary that, you know, there's this disconnect with women just having no awareness around PMDD. So obviously the main topic here is PMDD, but there are some other things that are in the mix of this that I want to go into. Kind of jumping into when all of this started for me, I think it was 2018, and AJ and I had we were like in our early stages of dating. I was just, first of all, not in a good place with my job at the time, which was already a pain point for me. I was prescribed anxiety medication, which was definitely not a solution because it was just a band-aid. Before anyone comes for me, like, please understand that this is my experience and how I personally feel about this whole journey. If you take these medications and they work for you, that is amazing, but everything doesn't work for everyone. I am not here to give you medical advice. Let's get that out of the way. But I am here to be completely honest with you in what has worked and what has not worked for me. Nobody needs to take this personal when I say that that was a band-aid, because it was for me. But it was a rescuer, and I'll just tell you what it was. It was Xanax, which is like pretty intense, as a lot of you know. So I was just taking that on occasion, and I didn't really love it because I could only like go to sleep on it. So that wasn't really a good fit for me. You know, with work and everything, that's what the doctor at the time suggested I take. And that was okay in terms of that time period. It was a very short period of me taking that. I just felt like something else was wrong with me. Looking back, I really think that there was some depression going on there, but that's how it ties into this next part. So I went to a different doctor. This doctor had been like a female doctor, and she was kind of asking me what was going on. Once I kind of told her that, she was like, well, it sounds like you have PMDD. I was like, the fuck? Never heard of that in my life. Long story short, PMDD is a very intense experience of PMS. So as you know, PMS is just it's not a good time, but PMDD is kind of a very extreme case of that. So what you might be experiencing, it's very psychological sometimes, and it's also very physical. During this time, the psychological part was manageable. It was somewhat bearable, but I would get very emotional and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So when we started to track that, it was oftentimes at the same time of the month when this would happen. I always say to the girls who are messaging me like, hey, I think this might be something that I'm experiencing, the first thing you need to do is start tracking that. See when your emotions are changing and how your thoughts are changing. When is that happening in the month for you? Because there is definitely a big difference in realizing that it's PMDD because of the timing, separating that from what could be depression or anxiety. So it's really important to have that timing, because that's a big difference in what your solutions might have to be. As of 2018, I knew this was something that I was experiencing, but it wasn't something that was interfering with my life. I was offered at the time birth control. I mean, I understand why they would offer that, because long story short, with PMDD, you're having this extreme fluctuation in hormones. Your hormones are going like whoo 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 whoo, whereas someone with normal PMS is like a little rocky around that time, but you're like fucking volatile. We have gone through a lot this past year in 2020, and I don't think we give ourselves enough credit in realizing how intense this past year has been, and that I think a lot of us are feeling the repercussions now and moving forward. Don't discredit what you have been feeling. If you are feeling all these things as of now, or even like within 2020, it's because you're human, and that's a beautiful thing. You should not feel bad for feeling. I haven't really talked about this on Instagram, but I'm definitely paying for a lot of what happened in 2020 right now. Like, I was so go and just like, do this, help them, like keep going. I wasn't processing how I was feeling, and what's happening right now for me is a lot of mental and psychological damage. We're doing some damage control right now. I'm not upset about that. I feel like the reason I feel this way right now is because I am human, and that I care so much, and I love that I care, but also that came with a price for me, like putting myself out there. A lot of you found me because I was speaking up so heavily on Black Lives Matter. Also, you have to realize it is psychologically traumatizing to continually open your phone and see a video of a man that's the same race as you being suffocated to death, and seeing all of these horrible things with police officers. I was dealing with it then, and I'm dealing with it now, and I just wanted to say that, because if you feel that to any degree, you are not alone. Fast forward, I think I can say with confidence that stress is something that makes my episodes more intense and just more unbearable than they usually are. At this time, I was offered birth control, and I wasn't thrilled about that, and that does work for some people. But I was just not having a good experience with birth control, so I was like, I felt like I was picking my poison here, like either get on birth control and have these hormones somewhat regulated, or have these like weird side effects from my birth control. It was a catch-22 for me at the time. She wrote me up a prescription, and I just never took the pills. I have not been on birth control since like 2018. When you go in and you're diagnosed with PMDD, oftentimes they're going to tell you, hey, I can write you up a prescription for birth control. Like, that is normally the first front line of defense that they're gonna give you. Alternatively, there's options like integrative health, which is like going to one of those natural holistic clinics and them like getting to the bottom of your issue and your hormones. The problem with that, and this is what I want so badly, you guys, like I really want to go to an integrative doctor. I called, I had the appointment, and just my consultation was $300. After that, it would be about $300 per visit, and there is just no guess on how many visits you're gonna need. So you're telling me I could need like 10 visits, and I don't know. Like, I don't know what I'm signing up to pay for, and it's one of those things where you can't just like jump in it halfway. You gotta be ready to like do this full on, because it is such an investment. So I got scared and I pulled back, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna do this, but I really wanted to, and it just like sucks because I just don't know. I don't know. But I feel like that is the kind of solution I want, because I want to get to the bottom of my hormone imbalance. Over-the-counter medications are coping mechanisms, but for me, like, I want something that is going to balance me out from the inside out. I hope and plan to get there one day, but for now, there have been some changes in my plans with this. In terms of symptoms, on the physical end of what I experience with PMDD, and I want to mention this, every month, every episode is very different. There could be a month where I really don't feel any physical symptoms, but psychologically I am like, woohoo. There are months where it's the opposite, where the physical is intense and the psychological is whatever. If I do have physical symptoms, it's very, like, my boobs feel like bricks, okay? They're so sensitive that I don't even want to hug you. It hurts. I have a lot of pain around, like, what is this area? It's not the crotch, but it's like the part. I am very sore around my ovaries. Sometimes those cramps are worse than the period cramps. So it's like, yay, I get 2 weeks of this. Totally rad. Now psychologically, this is where it gets interesting, because psychologically, just like the physical symptoms, it's on a spectrum of how insane it can get. Like I said, stress is gonna make it worse. And this is about to get kind of dark, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you. When I am going through the psychological effects of PMDD, it is like I am so depressed, hopeless. I am the biggest bitch to myself. Like, when I tell you, you could never hurt me the way I have hurt myself during these episodes, it's really scary. There has been like this really bad cycle 2 weeks out of every month of me doing this, to the point that when I look at my thought process over the last like year, it has drastically changed about how I feel about myself because of what happens during my episodes. And it's really frustrating because I don't feel like I'm a depressed person. I just feel like I am those 2 weeks out of the month. But it's like, dang, when you think it's just 2 weeks out of the month, but that's 6 months out of a year that I'm like this. So it's just this like hopelessness that like, I am not good enough, I'm not doing enough, everything I do is stupid, I should just stop. I should just literally stop. I don't feel this way any other time outside of that window. I usually know, like, hey, this isn't me. I'm not really in the driver's seat right now. I'm kind of a passenger in this like weird experience, and we just need to let these thoughts go by. And that's usually what works for me. As of recent, it has gotten to a point that I felt was like out of my control. I just was like so sad and always crying and just like so emotional, and like instead of being my usual self, like ignoring those thoughts, instead I would just like kind of cancel my day over what was happening, and I would just stay in bed, like very much so like a depressed person would. It was kind of just me giving up and surrendering to how overwhelming it was. It's not something I wanted to do. I didn't want to like cancel my day. I didn't want to like procrastinate on work, and a lot of you that know me know I'm just like a go-getter. A big reason I wanted to do 5 a.m. February was to just combat these urges to kind of give up on myself in this day, and it really helped me, but it wasn't enough. And so around mid-February, which I kind of like took a break from social media for a little while, and obviously this wasn't something I was talking about. I didn't have a whole lot to say at the time because I was just trying to see straight. Like literally, it was the worst episode I had had. I mean, when something starts to interfere with your work, your relationships, with everything involved with your life, like you have to say, okay, enough is enough, like I need help. And that's where it came to for me, where I was like, okay, this is bigger than me now. After I had like a pretty big low point, it was just a really like probably a mental breakdown. Like that's what I was having. And I think it was a combination of work overwhelm, burnout. You guys know I do a lot of my job on my own, and it's been really overwhelming, and a lot of people don't know this, but that's why the podcast is not running right now, because I need to get this together first. I miss the podcast so much, and it breaks my heart into a million pieces that it's not running right now. But I also realize that like if if I don't take care of myself, there's no podcast, there's no show, there's no host. Like, so that's not a huge priority of mine right now. But just know, like, I see your messages about the podcast and I want it to happen too, but it will not happen until I've hired somebody. With the work overwhelm, you guys also know I'm planning a wedding, a whole ass wedding, and it's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of things to check off, and some people like love that and live for that, and it just hasn't been something that I'm enjoying right now, especially because this experience has been a little weird, like not having friends and family nearby to plan with me. So it feels really isolating. So like, I have been scouting all the vendors, I have been checking all the boxes, securing all the deposits, and it's a job in itself outside of my job. It's a work in progress on balancing all that out. I think wedding planning in combination with just work burnout and overwhelm, and then, you know, looking back at 2020, like I said, and realizing everything that happened and kind of, you know, taking on so much emotional baggage in 2020, and not just like my own, but also from so many strangers on the internet and so many people on the internet. Some people who absolutely hate me for what I spoke up on, some people who absolutely, you know, appreciate me for doing it, constantly being exposed to these very traumatizing videos. It gets to a girl, and I'm a strong girl, I'm a fighter, but I mean, everybody has a breaking point. Not to mention, I didn't get to see my family for, it's been over a year. I'm really close to my family. I talk to my parents like almost every day. I talk to my siblings almost every day, if not a few times a week. Like, we're a close family, so not seeing your family for a really long time, and definitely not by choice, is not, it's not great. It's not a great feeling, and I know some of you can probably relate to that, but it's just what it was in this pandemic, and it really sucked. And I think I just kept telling myself it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, and not really confronting that it wasn't okay. It was okay that I was feeling these things. I think mid-February like blew up in my face, and I was like, man, I've been keeping a lot of stuff in, but it came out in a way that didn't make sense. But deep down, there were reasons. In terms of a solution, after my mid-February breakdown, I met with a doctor. I told her my concerns with birth control and that this did not help me in the past. I didn't want it again. And she was really respectful of that, and she gave me some other options, and we both came to an agreement that we thought Zoloft would be the best option for me right now. Zoloft, if you're not familiar with that, is an antidepressant. You know, I'm still doing everything in my power, lifestyle-wise, eating right, working out daily, therapy, and, you know, after I checked all those boxes and I'm like, dang, I'm still pretty fucked up, that's when I went to the doctor, and that's when I was like, hey, I need help. I'm also in therapy. I've told you guys I use BetterHelp. A lot of people may not know this, but PMDD is actually classified as a mental disorder. And I think the frustrating part about that is knowing it's a mental disorder that many women hurt themselves over, kill themselves over, yet it's not even something that is like really taught to you when you get your period. When I learned about females and the body and the period and puberty, PMDD was never mentioned. And I feel like had it been mentioned, just the awareness of it would have been a life-changing thing, literally life-changing, because, well, first of all, it's often diagnosed as bipolar disorder, and it's often overlooked. I feel like, especially after talking to a lot of you guys, a lot of you just didn't even know what that stood for, and that alone was like so shocking and scary to me. But then again, I look back, and when I got diagnosed, that was the first time I heard about it. When I was diagnosed, PMDD being classified as a mental disorder speaks so much to how severe it actually is. This is affecting my life. This is affecting my relationships. It's affecting my career. It's affecting so much of my life that I don't know. I feel helpless. I don't know what to do. And I think that's kind of what really separates it from typical PMS symptoms, is how it interferes with your life. It sucks and it's frustrating, I think, because, you know, you're given a couple options: birth control or freaking antidepressant. So I was not happy when I started my Zoloft. This doesn't feel like a solution. This feels like just a band-aid to cope with it, because I know like I have a hormone imbalance. I just want to fix that. I still really want to do the integrative health thing. That's a lot of money. That's not reasonable for a lot of women. For how common this is, it's not reasonable. I have now been taking my Zoloft for like 3 weeks, and I have noticed a tremendous difference. Tremendous. So much so that it's almost scared me, because I'm like, dang, I was really kind of fucked up. And I've even had people like messaging me like, oh, you look so happy, like something about you is different. I'm like, yeah, I took my Zoloft today. It is a difference. And I feel like I can do my job now. I feel like I can communicate my thoughts. I feel like I can control my thoughts. I can overpower them. But also that's a combination of the medication and practices that I've learned in therapy. And I can't recommend therapy enough. The process that you learn in therapy is what's really going to propel you to see success and progress. SSRIs, if that's what Zoloft is, that is also going to help you get to a point where you can actually function. And I am very thankful for this change. It's been a positive experience for me in so many ways. I am kind of taking this one day at a time. In my mind right now, I'm like, hopefully 3 months of the antidepressants is enough, and then I can start weaning off of it. We'll just see what happens, because right now it's been such a positive change for me. We have had some bad cold weather, minimal sunlight. All of that is just not good for anybody's mental health. But I think summers in springtime is always just so much better for me, when I can get outside and get some sun, and hopefully I will see my family soon, and I think that's gonna help a lot as well. Like, it would just be so cool if this video reached a bunch of people who have PMDD or think they might, because I just feel like together we can figure this out, because science doesn't feel they need to invest in this, which really sucks. I just know we can pull together, okay? And I hope that we can. One thing that I was recommended that I'm really excited to see if it works for me is Flow. I'll link it down below for you. These are like gummy vitamins, and they're all natural. I've heard really good things about these helping with PMS symptoms. They're literally PMS gummies. I've only been taking them for a couple of weeks, if that. You don't normally see any results for a couple months, but I have heard the people who have been consistent barely get cramps. Even if you don't have PMDD, like, it sounds like a fucking ball. I kind of picture this video being the start to a series of kind of dissecting this experience, and I just wanted this to be like an intro for you guys. But moving forward, I want to come back and let you guys know what has worked for me and what hasn't worked. As of now, I can tell you the Zoloft has helped me tremendously be able to get out of bed and function, and I just feel so creative again. Like, I feel like Bria, and I have not felt like Bria in a few months. I think I was also experiencing depression. I normally do get seasonal depression, so it wasn't a complete surprise to me that this past winter was where I had my breaking point, because it's like, okay, I get like a little blue in the winter, but then like you throw in the worst episodes of PMDD that I had on top of the depression, seasonal depression. It was a fucking storm. I don't know what this is, but that's what it felt like. I just want to let you know, if you think you have this, go to the doctor. I always like to personally start with lifestyle changes and ask myself, okay, I'm feeling like shit. Am I eating right? Am I working out? Am I interacting with people? And if I can't check all those boxes, it's like, okay, well, what can I control? See where you can fix things, and then, you know, pull in the doctor where you need. But obviously, ask a professional about this, get the advice you need, and see where you need to take it from there. But if you have PMDD, I seriously would love to hear about your experience, and if there's something that's working for you, like, I would love to know about that. Like I said, I hope that this video kind of brings us together to be able to talk and share ideas. For some quick tips and tricks on how I cope, make sure you follow me on Instagram at HeyBriaJones. If you have any advice or tips, leave them down below in the comments. Let's help each other out with how to manage this beast. And I am definitely going to be back with some updates as updates come in, and I hope to have a video for you one day with like the holy grail solution. But until then, I will keep you posted through here and Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning in, you guys. I'll see you next week.